Howdy readers, I'm Jason, this is Chapter and Verse, and tonight we're going to be talking about 2666. So as you guys have probably guessed, I'm still not done with the book, but I don't feel bad about it. I don't feel any guilt about not having finished my Mammoth in the inaugural month-long read-along that I kind of conceived. But I did want to thank Lukas and Alex from Totally Pretentious and bigalbooks for hosting this with me. You guys have been awesome. And you've kind of urged me along as well. I think, Alex, you said it best in a response to a comment I left on one of your videos that 2666 is just as good a book as it is. It's maybe not the right book for something like this because it's a difficult book to read in big gulps. And you talked about how you had to take a lot of little breaks, and I find myself having to do that as well with it. But that said, I'm almost done with the part about the crimes, part 4. I've got about 50 pages left. So the part about the crimes essentially is giving us a kind of litany, a kind of police report litany of these women who are raped and murdered in Santa Teresa, which is a kind of stand-in city for Juarez. And as I've been reading it, it occurred to me that I've seen this thing done before, that this kind of thing, I've seen it before in fiction. And that would be in this, Jose Saramago's novel, The Gospel According to Jesus Christ. And late in this novel, there it's pages and pages long. It's a single paragraph. And it's just a litany of saints of what happened to these men and women who were martyred for their faith. And I just wanted to read a few sentences. Well, it's all one sentence. It's Saramago. It's a bunch of sentences connected with commas. But I just wanted to read a little bit of this to you. Tell me, I want to know everything. God sighed, and in the monotonous tone of one who chooses to suppress compassion, he began a litany in alphabetical order so as not to hurt any feelings about precedence and importance. Adalbert of Prague, put to death with a 7-pronged pikestaff. Adrian, hammered to death over an anvil. Afra of Augsburg, burned at the stake. Agapitus of Praenesta, burned at the stake, hanging by his feet. Agnes of Rome disemboweled, Agricola of Bologna crucified and impaled on nails, Agueda of Sicily stabbed 6 times, Alphasia of Canterbury beaten to death with the shin bone of an ox. And it goes on like that, literally, for 4 pages, I think. Nothing else but that for 4 pages. Now, the part about the crimes is like 300 pages. But yeah, I feel like Bolano is doing something similar to what Saramago did. And the thing that he's doing that is different, that I find really striking, is that he is giving us sporadic details about these women and girls, many of whom are 10, 11, 12 years old. He's giving us these details kind of intermittently that cannot but humanize them, right? So they cease to become just names on a page, victims on a kind of stat sheet in a police department. They become individuals. Even though we don't get to know them while they were alive, we encounter all of these women after they've already been killed. Bolano gives us these wonderful, telling kind of glimpses, I think, into their pasts. On page 406, he writes about one of the women killed. Quote, her dream was to live near the ocean. That's a beautiful thing, right? He tells us what they were wearing, right? And especially in the cases of the little girls, the kinds of shoes they're wearing. Not only make the crimes seem more barbarous, but they also make the little girls seem more like little girls, more human somehow. He tells us how many of these girls used to walk their sisters to school when they were still alive. How many of them have clippings of Hollywood actresses taped up in their rooms, right? Indicating somehow their dreams, their aspirations. And so it ceases to become a kind of numbing catalog of violent acts, and becomes instead a kind of elegy, I think, about these women, these young women and these girls. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's how I read it, and that's what it makes me feel. I'm not finding myself merely appalled. I'm finding myself moved by the living kind of forces and presences that these girls and women had been. Which actually leads me to one of the things about the book that I find so startling and so just shocking and brutal. So we're seeing all of these crimes after they've happened, right? We're discovering the bodies with the police, cataloging, their wounds. And so what that does is it forces you to realize and to think about there was a moment when this violence was being done to these girls and women. This violence that we have seen done, right? It is past tense now, it's after the fact. But it forces us to then think about the moment that we're not seeing, right? The moment that he's chosen not to include, the moment where it's actually being done, it's being perpetrated, and the horror of that, right? I mean, how does someone get to a point where violence like that, okay, where they see violence like that as their right to do to someone else? That just seems so horrifying, just absolutely horrifying. A couple of nights ago, my friend Dan and I watched Sicario over at his house. It was my second time seeing it. And in the attic of his garage, we have a DVD projection system, and we have a 9-foot movie screen, and we have like movie theater seats that recline and hold beers, and it was wonderful. But we watched it to kind of help put me further into the headspace of 2666. And watching this film, right, and seeing the bodies hung from the viaducts, and seeing, my God, just what people do to each other. These drug lords, and again, what they look at as their right. Okay, how is it that human lives come to have so little value and worth to certain people that they can literally justify to themselves doing anything to someone? It boggles the mind, right? Like, I don't know what to say about that. I don't know where to go with that. And another one of the things that Bolano does in the book, that he's unafraid of doing in the book, is showing us how sometimes it's the people meant to be protecting us who are perpetrating the violence, right? I mean, we all see the news stories about police doing terrible things. There's a scene on page 401 in 2666 in which police, so the police have brought in all of the workers, the employees of this strip club. They brought in the dancers, they brought in the bartenders, they brought in everybody to question them, ostensibly to question them. And then Lalo Cura, one of the really great characters in the book, and maybe the most moral character in the book, he hears screaming in the station, and he goes to find out what's going on, goes to see what's going on. And come to find out that the police have put all of the men from the strip club in one cell, and all of the women in other cells, and the police are raping the women. And this would seem unreal or unbelievable or shocking if we didn't see this in the news, right? It was just last year that 3 policemen in Paris were convicted of drugging and gang raping a woman in the police station, right? This shit happens, and the fact that Bolano is unafraid of going there, I think, is to his credit. On page 552, there's a scene where a bunch of cops have got off work. They're at the bar. They're having beers and eggs, right? Huevos rancheros, and one of these cops just tells misogynist joke after misogynist joke, and they are the most disgusting jokes that you can imagine, right? I mean, jokes that suggest women are inferior, that suggest women are inherently or innately stupid, jokes that suggest that women deserve violence, that they deserve beating. And I couldn't help but thinking it begins there. It's this culture of kind of I don't know, chummy kind of jocular locker room bullshit. And from there, right, sons see their fathers behaving this way. They hear it, and they come to believe it's okay. They come to look differently at their mothers, at their sisters, at the girls in their schools, and that's where it all starts, right? That's where it all starts. You know, some of us here on BookTube tend to think of this toxic masculinity thing as ridiculous, as a kind of, I don't know, politically correct, exaggerated overreach somehow. But it's a real thing. It's a real thing, and it's here. It's in this book, right? It leads to the rapes and murders of hundreds of women. That's what it leads to, and it's got to fucking end. It's got to stop. The book also reminds me of the titles over the final frames of the movie Wind River. And so that movie is about, law enforcement looking for the killers of this young Native American woman. And at the end of the film, it says on the screen, while missing person statistics are compiled for every other demographic in America, it should be noted, none exist for Native American women. No one knows how many are missing. And so I find myself thinking that we have to find these missing people, right? These women in Mexico, these Native American women. We have to honor the dead. But before all of that, I mean, for God's sake, man, like, people need to respect the living. Like we just need to respect the people around us. If we can do that, there will be fewer women missing. There will be fewer women killed. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, the book is pretty terrific, I think. It's bloated. It's got some structural problems, I feel like. But on the whole, I think it's bold. I think it's brave. I think it's quite good. So next month, in the You Carry a Coffin Today project, my mortality project, we will be reading Me and Earl and the Dying Girl by Jesse Andrews. And then we will be watching the film of Me and Earl and the Dying Girl. I've only seen the film. I love the movie. I started the book today. I'm about 35 pages in, and I'm really enjoying it thus far. But yeah, those of you who are participating in the Mortality Project, thank you. Yeah, it's been kind of rough going as far as the subject matter goes, but having your company has made it a lot better for me, a lot more wonderful. So thank you guys. In particular, Tilly and Roz. You guys have been diligent journeyers with me, so I appreciate that. But anyway, I will let y'all go. I just got home. Kelly and I just got home from a tennis lesson. I'm exhausted, and I'm gonna go upstairs and get some reading done. So I will see you again very soon. Adios.